Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. This is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute to help you understand more in depth the concepts of reality therapy, choice theory, and lead management. And we are blessed to have back with us Jeff Steedman from Down Under. It is morning already in Australia, and we're just delighted that you're here, Jeff. And his topic today is the 5 choice theory needs. So I look forward to the way that you explain these. So take it away, Jeff.
Okay. I might have got a little bit confused because I've got a slightly different topic, which is about the 5 needs, but also in particular reference to our sexual behavior. So I'm really going to look specifically at that. I hope that's okay, Mona.
Yes, that is in the 5 choice theory needs in our sexual behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's just start with just a really quick overview of what Glasser had to say about our needs. And he proposed that we're born with 5 needs and that they are genetically programmed into us, that we have those needs, we're born with them. The 5 needs that he says that we're born with, he then says drive all of our behavior. He tells us that all behavior is intended to meet those needs. So basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all we can do is behave. And that behavior, even if we're not consciously aware of it, is intended to meet our needs. He also says that everything we do is behavior. So I became interested in choice theory probably more than 20 years ago in my counseling business. And one of the interesting things that came up and that really triggered this is that in working with couples, often there were issues around their sexual behavior differences, and they couldn't really see how to resolve those. But when I was able to work with them in a choice theory way and counseling with choice theory, it began to make sense. And so what I extrapolated from what Glasser had said was that if everything that we do is behavior, and sexual behavior is one more behavior, then it makes sense that our sexual behavior is also intended to meet our 5 needs. From that, it gives you a really clear way of looking at what's going on and being able to self-evaluate whether the behaviors that you're choosing, A, are satisfactorily meeting your own needs, and B, are meeting your own needs in a way, and this Glasser was very firm on this, we need to satisfy our needs in a way that's not abusive of anybody else's needs. Now, if we don't understand what the needs are, we will ride roughshod over other people's needs and probably not be very successful at meeting our own. So if we put it briefly, Glasser talked about the 5 needs as being, first of all, survival, which is, we can say, a physical need. Survival we can sum up as it's about food and shelter, and these are just represented. We could put air and water and a whole lot of other things in there as well. So food and shelter, but also about being safe and secure. And that's both physically, but also psychologically and emotionally. And of course, survival needs are also about having kids, carrying on our genetic line, growing kids to continue on into the future. So that's our survival need. Love and belonging is another need. We move into the 4 now, if you like, psychological or emotional needs. And love and belonging is about being able to belong and fit in, to be connected, and to be able to love and be loved. Freedom was another need. And freedom is about having some degree of choice and control and autonomy over what we do. And we can think of freedom in 2 domains, that is freedom to do what we want to do, but also freedom from the control of others. The next one is fun. And I love fun. Probably no surprise that I'm quite high in fun needs myself. Fun is about, at a simple level, enjoyment and pleasure. But at a much deeper level, fun is very much about growth and learning, and about being able to develop the skills and abilities that you have. And the final one is power. And I like to call that personal power, to try and differentiate that a little bit from, people often think of power as external control, controlling others. Certainly we can try and meet power through external control, but that controlling behavior isn't power in itself. We can define power as the drive to achieve, do something of value and worth, to be recognized and appreciated and valued for what we do. And where it's fun to be developing new skills, we actually get a sense of power when we become skilled and competent, when we become good at what we can do. So very briefly, they're the 5 needs. That's the way I sum them up. You can certainly add other things to that, but that gives us a bit of an understanding. So the relationship of that to sexual behavior was a really interesting one. And I developed over a period of time a sexual needs questionnaire so that people could try and figure out what their needs profile was. And what I wanted to do was to connect that up with their needs profile, and it does match really, really well. So it becomes a useful tool to determine whether what your needs profile is, and hence which sexual behaviours and how you might go about more satisfactorily meeting those needs in ways that are not abusive of others' needs. Sometimes I won't say that, but please take that as a given. So let's look at that in I suppose, a bit more detail. So we'll take the survival need first of all. If we take the survival need, and I'll say that again, that was about food and shelter, feeling safe and secure, and also having kids. So the person who has a very, very strong survival need is likely to see sexual behavior as having a purpose, and the purpose is to have kids. The purpose is to carry on that genetic line. And they may not, and note I'm saying may not because behaviours can be influenced by a whole lot of other things, but they may not be particularly interested in sexual behaviour or activity outside of the purpose of having kids. This could be very difficult for someone who doesn't have a strong survival need to understand. They might even think that that person is not interested in sexual behaviour at all, when in fact they are, but they just have a different needs profile, which is driving the behaviours that they've learned and they're choosing at that particular time. If we look at just the needs profile for a moment, the person with high survival needs is often not much of a risk taker. They're very careful in terms of their health and their well-being. They're not likely to take risks. Someone with a low survival needs tends to be a risk taker in life. So we can, from that, figure out that the person with high survival needs is likely to worry more about their sexual health, insist on safe sex, make sure that their partner, maybe even question their partner about their sexual history, and demand that there be maybe even a test for STIs before they engage in any sexual activity. Whereas the person with low survival needs is more likely to be cavalier about that and say, oh, it'll be right, it won't happen to me, I'll be okay, it'll be fine. It starts to make sense. And when I relate this to people, you can see the penny starting to drop and them going, ah, okay, that's why I or my partner have been behaving like that. That's why we operate in a different way. The person with low survival needs also is not likely to particularly see that sexual activity is predominantly about having kids. because they will be more driven by one of their other four needs. They'll be more important to them. Remembering, and Glasser was also very clear about this, as far as we know, nobody has zero need in any of those domains. So it's either high, somewhere in between, or low. The next need that we can look at is the need for love and belonging. So remembering that love and belonging is about being able to belong and fit in and to be able to love and be loved. So the person with high love and belonging is likely to want to have strong connections, a strong feeling of belonging, a strong feeling of partnership. And that will be very important to them. And all of the behaviours associated with that in their quality world pictures, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So they'll very much focus on it being a loving relationship. Now, this can lead to huge, as you can well imagine, problems if their partner doesn't have that as a high need themselves. If they have low love and belonging, they don't see the need for that same degree of displays of love and affection, of showing that they're concerned with the other person in a highly connected way. In terms of the sexual behaviour, their sexual behaviour is likely for high love and belonging to be focused on all of the tokens and rituals and behaviours that they've learned indicate love and belonging. So they're wanting all of the lead up and all of the romanticism that we see often displayed in movies, books, and so on. Whereas a person with low love and belonging kind of thinks, oh yeah, okay, well, that's good, but let's move on because we don't really need all of that. Again, if there's a mismatch and we don't have an understanding of the needs, you have a ready source of friction and discontent in that relationship. The third need that I mentioned was fun. Sorry, no, it was freedom. So freedom was about having some degree of choice, control, and autonomy over what we do. The freedom from and the freedom to. Freedom from control and the freedom to do and be what we want. So the person with high freedom needs, as far as sexual behavior is concerned, is likely to not want to be restrained by rules and regulations. If somebody says, you're not supposed to do that, they're not likely to take that very, very well at all. They won't like being told by the other that this is the way it has to be. They're going to resist that. And depending on the behaviours they've learned as they're maturing, they may resist it in a very active way, push back actively, or in a passive way, smile and nod, but not change their behaviours at all. But they will resist because they don't like being told what they have to do or how they have to do it. On the other hand, the person with low freedom needs is likely to be much more compliant and go, oh, well, if that's the way you want things to be, I'll go along with that. Mind you, they'll only go so far because we all have freedom needs. And at some point, they'll say, enough, I'm not prepared to comply or to cooperate with you any further than this. The next one, so we've done survival, love and belonging, and freedom. The next one is fun. So fun was about, at a simple level, enjoyment and pleasure, and at that deeper level, growth and learning. So the person with high fun needs in terms of their sexual behavior is likely to be open to and interested in trying lots of different sexual behaviors, lots of different maybe sexual positions, trying maybe role plays, all sorts of things that add for them interest and enjoyment and a change, an alternate. They might like to be able to learn and grow. So they might take an interest in reading more about or watching movies or videos about sexual behavior because they have an inquiring mind and they want to learn more about it. The person with low fun needs is far less likely to take an interest in, is quite happy with routine, same old, Friday night, after lights out, whatever it might be that works for them. That might be much more comfortable for them. And finally, the sexual behavior, or the need of power and the sexual behaviors associated with that. Remembering that power is about achievement and recognition, doing something of value and worth, and being appreciated. So we want to, if we have high power needs, we're wanting to be seen to be successful, seen to be able to achieve. So it's important for the person with high power needs that they are successful in their sexual behaviors. And what that often means is that they are able to pleasure their partner, and they need confirmation, and probably quite a bit of it, that, hey, you've done a good job. It works for me. I'm feeling happy. Person with low power needs, not so important to them. And of course, they also don't necessarily think that it might be important to the other person. So they're not likely to say, oh, that was wonderful, I really enjoyed that. That was a great experience. Can we do that again? They're not likely to give that sort of feedback. That, putting all that together and being able to teach that to couples or individuals, if they come in on their own and their partner doesn't want to come, has been a really useful way in tying together the teachings that Glasser had, but really honing in on the behavior that we choose and learn in terms of trying to satisfy those needs in our sexual activities. And it's been eye-opening for the partners that I've worked with. And that doesn't matter whether they're same-sex partners, heterosexual partners, it doesn't matter. The principles apply regardless. And once you can teach people the needs profile and help them to realize this also applies to the sexual activity, their ability, if they're prepared not to operate and continue to operate in external control in the relationship, their ability to negotiate for fair, which basically means, okay, now I understand what your needs are, and you understand what my needs are. Let's now negotiate how we can have a relationship where both sets of needs are being met. They now have a language and understanding. They stop judging each other. They stop believing that they are right and their partner is wrong, or even worse, is somehow twisted or sexually deviant because they want something different to what that person wants. But remembering it's always a negotiation, but negotiations only work when they come from a point of understanding of the other. I can't remember, I think it was Covey that said, seek first to understand, then be understood. And it's really important that we understand the other's needs profile and don't judge them for that, but just accept that's the way they are. And that Glasser taught us that. We need to accept that. And if we want to be satisfied ourselves in the relationship, and including the sexual activity part of that relationship, we need to do it in a way that's need satisfying for us and our partner. That's the give and take and the absolute foundations of healthy relationships. So I want to come now to how quality world pictures fit into that. So not only do people not know what their needs are, so they don't understand their sexual needs profile, they also don't understand that what they have are these quality world pictures that they've popped into their head. And the quality world pictures that they've got, they obtain from the environment around them. Now, nowadays, that includes obviously movies, books, sometimes experiences themselves, videos online, a whole range, a plethora of different pictures. So they can form a quality world picture, which is a great picture of what one way, or maybe some ways of meeting their needs, but doesn't take into account that there may be many, many other ways that they could meet their needs. And it may not even be a very satisfactory way to meet their needs. But because that's all they've been exposed to, they think that's the only way to meet their needs. And this is where some of the difficulties in sexual behavior and tension between couples occurs, because they have such a strong quality world picture that they've formed that they think that's the only way that they can satisfy their needs. And so they dig in and they hang on to it and they insist on it. And all the while, if their partner doesn't share it, their relationship is moving further and further and further and further apart. Glasser taught us that when our needs are not being met, that what in effect is happening is, and we use the concept of the scales, is here's our quality world picture on this side, and on this side is our picture, which is our perception of what we've got. It doesn't matter whether it's the reality, it's our perception, which is our reality. Someone else might see it and see it quite differently. Doesn't matter. Our perception is our reality. Now, obviously, if those two are fairly close together, our scales are balanced and we feel pretty good. In fact, we feel fantastic. But when our quality world picture is not one that's shared by our partner, and they're not prepared to work with us to achieve that picture, the scales tip. And then we get real problems within the relationship. This is true not just for sexual behavior, but all aspects of behavior in the relationship. But of course, it also applies to sexual behavior. The problem is that we've learned external control psychology and we don't know this is a quality world picture. We just think that's what everyone should want because it's what we want. And so we keep pushing for it. The scales become even more tipped. We move further apart in the relationship and the couple have more and more difficulties. So teaching them that when those scales are tipped, there are only three things that we can do to bring them back into balance. One is we can change our quality world picture. Two, we can change our perception of what we've got. And three, we can change the behaviors that we've been using up to this point to try and get those scales into balance. In reality, my belief is that you change a little bit of each of those, maybe more of one than others, but we change each of those domains. So we may, and this is where the learning comes in, we may change our quality world picture, but that's hard to change. That's the hardest of the three to change because we value it the most. But if I have a quality world picture of what successful sexual activity and a successful sexual relationship is, it's going to be difficult for me to shift that unless I trust that I'm going to have at least as good as or better way to meet my needs. And that's where the understanding and the learning comes in. And it's so important that we realize that, hey, this isn't a deficit model. It isn't about you not getting that quality world picture. It's about replacing it with as good as or better. Also, we might shift our perception of what we got. If we were believing that our partner is unloving or uncaring or isn't willing to work with us or is not free enough or is not adventurous enough, if they're our perceptions, we're in trouble. If we realize that our partner is doing the best they can with what they know and that they also have a different set of quality world pictures and needs, our perception of their behavior will shift. And finally, then we can negotiate new behaviors and remembering Glasser's tenet that it's really important that when we satisfy our needs, we do that in a way that is not abusive of the others. So we can negotiate a behavior that's going to work for our partner and ourselves. I can say that where couples have taken this on board, or even an individual, if their partner's not willing to come, it always works. This isn't that's one of the things I love about the way that choice theory really applies to so many domains of our lives. When we really grasp it, when we give up external control, when we focus on internal control, which is the only person whose behavior I can really control is myself. And when we negotiate for fair, the definition being this will meet my needs and your needs, we will always achieve success. And that's an amazing thing. And it's a highly exciting thing to be able to share with people. And that's what I've been able to develop in working with couples using this concept of our sexual needs profile as well. So that's what I had to share today, Mona, with the needs and our sexual needs profile. I hope that people have enjoyed that. And if they want to know more, they certainly can contact me.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Very thorough, very deep, looking at both sides. I liked your definition of fair.
Yeah.
And the isolating on one behavior in the negotiation, that there's no right or wrong way, but it's the understanding of it. It was, yes, deep, deep, deep. So I liked how you were looking at the 3 changes: to change your picture, to change your perception of the picture, or to change your behavior. And actually, in bringing all those changes about, we're making a choice to do that.
Yeah.
And then the result is being acceptance, value, and trust.
Absolutely. I couldn't put it better myself.
Which is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so very much. And I'm sure this will be one that will be viewed again and again and again. And
Good.
the, some of the counselors can even take this and pass it on to their clients that
Welcome.
see things in a different way. So thank you very much, and thank our audience for being with us. And thank you for being here, and good mental health.